Today we have in our studio a personality born in Tanzania, immigrated to Canada in 1977, and first elected MP in 1997 from Calgary East under Preston Manning's leadership, and the longest serving ethnic or the South Asian MP in Canada. Please welcome Honorable Deepak Obhrai.
Thank
Mr. Obhrai, welcome to Asian Magazine.
Thank you very much, Jagtar. It's a great pleasure for me to return back to your show. As you know, we have a history going all the way back when you were a pioneer of the Asian broadcasting network here in Calgary, and I had just started my political career.
That's right.
We used to meet at your other studios.
That's right.
So we have had a very long history back. So it's a great honor and a pleasure to come back again once more and talk to you and to your listeners. So thank you for having me.
No problem. No problem. Would it be all right if I call you Deepak?
Indeed, please. Okay. I told you we have a long association, so calling me Deepak and me calling you Jagtar looks far more. It gives our relationship its value.
All right. Thank you, Deepak. Yeah, thank you for remembering all that, we've been used to come to our studio since I think in 1996, 95, somewhere there.
All that way back when I was the president of India Canada Association, and other when I was the committee leader as well.
Then I'll say, welcome back, Deepak.
Indeed. I think that's the right thing to say.
That's right. Deepak, my first question is, have you ever thought of it or felt for any moment that one day you'll represent Canada at world level?
Oh, no. Forget the world level. When I first started my political career, it was at the municipal level, which was not successful. Neither was it successful in the provincial level. I didn't think very much about the national level. And when I won my elections, and that's the only election, that's my first run at election I won, which was the federal election. The other ones were just an attempt to get in. Right? I remember in the election finished on June the 6th, and somewhere at the end of June, I went to Ottawa, to be sworn in and to see. And as I was standing at the footsteps of the Parliament, I looked up at this massive, impressive building with the Canadian flag flying, and I look at it and say, and the thought came into my mind, how did an immigrant from Africa come to this country to look for a new life? How in the hell's name did he reach such a stage where he's standing at this impressive building? Which is the time when I felt the enormous responsibility that had now just been given to me by the people by supporters like yourselves and all the others. And so it was quite an awe-inspiring but very humbling experience. Then subsequently from there, I was 8 years in the opposition, and then when we formed the government, Prime Minister Harper called me in and he said he could use me better in foreign affairs, looking at my prosperity. So he thought I would be more suited to his government if I became a parliamentary secretary for foreign affairs, which I got appointed in 2006. I have been a parliamentary secretary since then, the longest serving parliamentary secretary in the history of Canada.
That's very nice. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I've gone through 6 ministers, and as the Minister Baird used to say, ministers come and go, but Deepak doesn't go anywhere. He's still a parliament. They joke at it. So I've been doing it. I've been very lucky that under these portfolio, the government, both the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Prime Minister Harper, has put immense trust in me to represent his government, our country abroad, and it's been a most humbling experience that I've ever had.
What are your other achievements?
Well, then somewhere down there in 2008, Prime Minister then appointed me additional responsibility of Parliamentary Secretary for International Development. And then in 2012, he appointed me to the Queen's Privy Council, where I was appointed. These were monuments to be appointed in Queen's Privy Council is quite an honor.
Right, it is.
And there's this thing that I had a very good honor to visit India and Pakistan, state visit with the Governor General at that time of Romeo LeBlanc.
Right.
That was in 1998. I then visited the Governor General state visit back to my old country, Tanzania.
Tanzania.
You know, I went back to my old school in Tanzania. Then subsequently, I've been with the Governor General back again to India twice, with the Prime Minister twice. I've been traveling around the world, and as the Governor General likes to put it, he says, "You are my traveling companion." You know? So, but yes, it was quite an experience. But prior to that, you know, I was in the opposition for 8 years.
Right.
And during my time in the opposition, I served on many committees. But you know, and so it was the experience that I gained from talking to people and learning that you know came, and I must say that I'm very humbled by this great appointment and experience.
Deepak, as you mentioned that you've been to Tanzania on a visit and you visited your old school, and how did you felt about it? Did you meet any friends?
Well, they had all moved on, but let me just say that it was indeed a very humbling experience. I was sitting with the Governor General of Canada, which by itself was a great honor to sit with the head of state of Canada. Same old stage where I used to get candy. You were a bad boy, right? In olden days.
In school days.
In school days, they did that. And you know, same old classroom, same old uniform. And we were there on the stage, and then as the Governor General was speaking, so the Governor General then got up and he said to the congregation who were waiting outside, lined up where we used to, and he said to the students, "How many of you think you will immigrate to Canada?" There were about, I think, 10 hands went up out of people of about 500.
Right.
10 hands went up.
Oh, really?
So I said, very good, very good, very good, he says. Now I want to ask you a real question. How many of you think you'll be an elected official in Canada? No hand went up.
No hands.
No hand went up. Everybody's there now looking around. He says, "Listen, you see this boy sitting here next to me? He was about 35 years ago like you in that thing. And today he is an elected official in Canada. We are proud of him. So, dream big, think big, and you can do it."
Excellent.
So,
good message.
It was a good message.
Yes. Very good. Yeah. As you said, you've been traveling around the globe. You've been to many countries, including China, Vietnam, Japan, India, Pakistan. As a representative of Government of Canada, what is most good experience?
Well, you know, when I go to all these countries and attend, I go on behalf of the Government of Canada for bilateral meetings to enhance the relations between Canada and the country where I've gone on both trade and on the other issues as well, political. As you know, I'm Parliamentary Secretary of Foreign Affairs, so bigger job of mine is political. And then I go to United Nations, I represent Canada at the UN General Assembly. You know, these are very humbling moments when Canada is on the world stage, recognized, you meet all these people. We talk, you know, it's a great, you know, how we work to build strong relations between us and this thing. And, you know, I feel very satisfied completely that when all our meetings that I've done have concluded, including with the heads of state and everything, comes out with a positive feeling that, yes, things are moving forward and it will move forward. And that makes, you know, you feel, yes, you've flown all this way, you've achieved something. Then you feel very positive about it.
Of course.
And as you know, every country is different.
Of course.
Right? Everybody has different issues, everybody has and so we talk about it. You know, I represented the Prime Minister at APEC, where I met Vladimir Putin and all the other heads of states of Asia. Then I went to the Pacific Forum. I've been going where I meet all the heads of states from the Pacific countries. You know. Then I went to Sri Lanka to represent the Prime Minister at Commonwealth.
Right.
I met all the.
Right. As continue with that same scenario, you have almost met most of the head of states or the presidents of prime ministers of the countries. What is your most pleasant experience?
Well, it was very nice when I met Prime Minister Modi in October, when I and John Baird went on a bilateral meeting. And we had a meeting where all the things were set for his trip to Canada. And we had a great discussion. He was quite surprised I speak Gujarati. And then he said, you know, this guy is our son-in-law. We have to take care of him. Which John Baird said, what did you say? Because speaking Gujarati, right?
Yes.
But yes, I met Nawab Sharif too. It was quite an experience, this thing. I met, you know, the Malaysian Prime Minister, you know, I met Prince Charles. I met the Prime Minister of Australia, who called the Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, to thank him. He said, Deepak's doing a good job. So, you know, I have been quite a humbling experience. I met David Cameron. We spoke for half an hour.
Right.
He was very keen of interest in knowing how did a nation become, you know, where he was, because he has, in his own cabinet, he has Asians coming in.
Yeah.
So he wanted to, you know, touch base. Some people have expressed quite a surprise when they say I'm from Canada,
right.
you know, because it's not a, you know, traditional Canadian face.
That's right.
It's a different face, and they say we can expect it from Canada. Canada is the only admired around the world as a multicultural country, and my presence on this world stage, you know, amplifies that message.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so I recently, about 2 weeks ago, I was in Nigeria for the inauguration of President Buhari, who just won the election. And so I had an opportunity to meet him. I talked to him about our relations, but he was also going to meet Prime Minister Harper at the G7 2 weeks later. So I explained, you know, set the stage of what we were looking for at the meeting, which was a very successful meeting between Prime Minister Harper and him.
That's good.
So, you know, all these things play a very major role. I've been at the United Nations with Ban Ki-moon on many occasions to discuss Canada's role at the United Nations World Affairs. Remember, Canada is, while they call us soft power, we are not superpower, but we have a very huge global presence around the world, you know, and people come to look upon Canada as one of that country in which they put tremendous amount of trust, and so we want to maintain that trust.
Right, right. As you mentioned, you have met Vladimir Putin, President of Russia.
Yes.
How was your experience like?
Why I'm laughing is, let me just say, in the 15 minutes that I was sitting with Vladimir Putin, with the President of Papua New Guinea, with the President of Vietnam, and the Prime Minister of Malaysia, myself and Vladimir Putin. President Putin and we got on to a good start, in the sense that we were joking while we were waiting for things. This was not, we were conducting the meetings, we were waiting in the waiting room before pictures were being taken. And he gave a joke, you know, which I of course don't have the time to explain here. It's a good joke, and you know, I laughed, and I got the message that he gave, and he was extremely happy, and he was laughing, and then when he went on the stage, he came back again laughing. He said, "I got another joke for you." So yeah, aside from the fact that we have different tremendous disagreement on the fact of Russia's position on Ukraine and Canada's position. We are extremely different. As you know, Prime Minister Harper has already passed a very clear message to President Putin. Mind that, you know, my experience with President Putin was on a personal level.
Right, good. So far, what was your most difficult assignment overseas?
Yes, the most difficult assignment that I've ever had was this Commonwealth Conference that was held in Sri Lanka last year. Prime Minister Harper decided he was going to boycott because he had concerns about human rights issues of Sri Lanka, more specifically with Rajapaksa. And so he wanted to send a strong message, in the sense that the government of Sri Lanka was not fulfilling the Commonwealth objectives and was playing mockery of the Commonwealth. And Prime Minister Harper was not said, if you're not reaching up to the level of the core principles of the Commonwealth, and you're hosting a Commonwealth conference, you know. So he declined to go, and but he made it very clear that he chose me to be his representative, and he wrote to President Rajapaksa that I was coming and that I was to be treated completely as a head of state. So which I attended. First I went there. I went to Jaffna, despite the fact Sri Lankan government tried to stop me from going to Jaffna. Okay, they canceled their flights. That didn't stop me from driving 8 hours. As soon as I landed, all night I drove. I went to Jaffna. I saw the situations in Jaffna. I came back. I had a foreign ministers meeting, where I raised big concerns where other countries were quite surprised that Canada was so vocal. And then I had following that 2 days, I had a meeting. I then, of course, went to the head of state meeting as a head of state, where everybody else was there. Cameron was there, and all the others. And I had to raise the issues that had been sent, which were not very popular with the president, who was not very. So I'm in this hostile territory.
Right.
And there I am, I'm putting my flying Canada's flag.
Right.
I do have to say that, as Prince Charles told me in the evening when he met me, he said, "Parliamentary Secretary, I hear you have been raising a lot of noise."
Noise. Yeah.
I said, "Yes, Your Majesty." And then, it was a tough assignment because you are aware, with the heads of state who are this thing. But I gave the message very strong of what the Prime Minister asked me to do. Which was why the Prime Minister of Australia sent a call to Harper to say, "Your boy in the heads of state did a good job."
Good job, yeah.
But it was a tough assignment for me.
Right, yes. Yeah, okay.
But I acted as the head of state.
Were you personally scared when all your flights were cancelled by government and you were stopped and not to travel and all that?
Yeah, well, we were surprised that they were going to do that, but somehow we had anticipated that they would try to stop me. That was something that we were. So when we had prior to my departure from here, we decided to have what we would call Plan B in action. Should they do something to stop me from going, what were we going to do? But I did not expect them to stop me. So I was pretty surprised that I left. I did a Diwali function. Immediately I went to the airport, and I flew out to Sri Lanka. I arrived there at early hours in the morning at about 6. So at about 9 o'clock, they woke me up and said, 3 hours later, to say, flights have been cancelled. I said, put Action B into plan. Action B was get the car, and we jumped into the car and off we went.
Right.
It really shocked the Sri Lankans. Now they couldn't stop it, right? I remember Prime Minister Harper had written to them that I am to be treated as the head of state, so they could not do anything.
You were awarded Pravasi Bharati Salman in 2008 and Pride of India in 2014 last year. Tell me about it. How did you feel?
When I was, although the award, the Pravasi Bharati Award, was presented to me because of my work in building Canada-India relations. Okay, as you know, Canada-India relations were frozen under the Chrétien regime, under Lloyd Axworthy. But I took the effort in the opposition to build this relationship on my own, very hard. And so in this recognition, the government of India, awarded me the Pravasi Bharati Salman Award, which, by the way, I must tell you this. Okay, when it was awarded, I came back here. The Prime Minister said to me, "You owe me big time." And I said, "Why?" You see, as a member of the government, as a parliamentary secretary, member of the government, senior member of the government, I am not allowed to accept award from a foreign government.
Okay.
And I'm the only, even today, only federal high official to receive an award from India.
I had to accept it.
Yeah, and I had accepted it. So now I was in a big problem. What do I do?
So
do I return it back, or do I resign? Right. But then Prime Minister Harper intervened and said, no, he's going to keep it. He wants this policy changed. So from there on, the policy was changed. So I was allowed to keep it.
All right.
But to answer your question as to how did I feel, when I was sitting there, the thought went back to the time my ancestors, my great-great-grandfather, left the shores of India to go to work as railway workers in Tanzania. Okay. And they went there as coolies, workers and everything.
And hard workers.
Hard workers. Yeah. And they built their life from that time on. They stayed there. So our family was there, and I grew up there, my father, henceforth, and all these things, right? And I was sitting there and I said, what would they think, right? Further down the line, the country they left is today recognizing their great-grandson with the highest award you can give.
That's right.
You know?
To foreigners. Yeah.
So my thought at that time went to all my sisters who were there in Africa, subsequently those who have helped me, you know, in this journey where I arrived, you know. It was master, and all this went through my mind, from Africa, from Canada, from, you know, here. Everybody helped me, even those who elected me.
Right.
Are the reasons why I'm there.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
So that thought went there, and you know, I said, hey, this is in all of their memory.
It's meant to be that way. You received it.
I said it's all in their memory.
That's
everybody's
right.
memory.
Yeah. That's good. And congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm also a recipient of many other awards.
Yeah.
I'm the only member of parliament that is profiled in grade 9 high school book.
Okay.
Every high school book in Alberta
Right.
reads about me and my elections and what I do, what I say.
Some foreign policies.
No,
Huh?
I'm a member of parliament.
Okay.
In the grade 9 social study books, when they talk about parliament, I'm the only member of parliament profiled.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Then I'm in the who's who.
Yeah.
Then I received recently an award from the Vietnamese Association, you know, for outstanding work in building relations with Vietnam. And so yeah, their awards are full, but you know what? This is I'm thankful they do that, but I have to be focused on what I want to do.
As you are traveling overseas and as an MP, how do you keep up with your riding or Calgary East?
Well, you know, as I said, I have a very solid team here in Calgary. Team made up of my supporters, team made up of my staff, team made up of my family, and team, most importantly, my electoral board of Calgary East, which has got 30 members. They ensure that my board is very well run, very well taken care of. They ensure that the message, what I'm doing, is passed on to the constituents and that I'm visible. They ensure that everything happens, you know. And so it's an humbling thing that, you know, I have such a massive support base that ensure that, you know, if my constituents have any issues, they can approach me.
My next question would be that over the years, what sort of changes or improvements you have brought to Calgary East or to Calgary?
When I was elected and I was in opposition, the Liberal government played a lot of politics, and Western Canada was put away from not receiving much support from the federal government. The Liberals ensured that opposition areas did not get government. So when we became into the government, you know, first policy we had was money should be shared equally across Canada, not one region, not the other region. And as you know, if you will go back in the history, Quebec was the recipient of a lot of money. A lot of people came from there. So I fought for my riding, and I got, you know, the so-called federal funding that was required in my riding for infrastructure, for community associations and everything. But I think the biggest impact of all was that within being a member of the government inside, I was able to present the views of what Canadians and constituents in my riding wanted. You know, what were their problems, what were they were facing challenges. Taking that into account, we would then put that into action within the government, right? For example, budgets. Okay, the Minister of Finance would call us and say, "Tell us, what do you think?" We were able to put an input into the budgets. Okay. During the time of the Liberals, we were completely shut out, totally shut out. Okay. And so, you know, I must say, I'm extremely pleased to be a voice inside the government for my constituent. That is the biggest achievement, because I know from experience that when I was not in the opposition, I could not advance any of the views my constituents wanted.
Right. Okay. Good. How do you cope with you're busy in Ottawa and overseas and on assignments, and how do you cope with your family?
Well, my family has been a source of strength.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were part of my original campaign, you know, and they've been always there. And so they know, that we have fought hard and what we fought for. And I can tell you that my family also, like other constituents, give their input as well for policies as well. So, they feel that it was a fight worth, and they realize and they see what is happening and how it is happening, and for that they've been a big source of support. So for them I say thank you very much.
What are your views? In Alberta, there was a 40 years old party, PC party, was ruling over 40 years, and there's a change in government. How do you see that?
If you will look at in April, Calgary Herald, I endorsed Jim Prentice, who worked with me for 10 years as an MP, to be the leader. I was the first one to come out and give him a full endorsement, and said that it was possible for him to bring the two parties together. And I put all my faith in him, and I had, good relations with him. But at the end of the day, he holds responsible of how he ran the campaign.
Right.
Okay. And subsequently, as the campaign came and started, we were becoming concerned. I'm a member of the PC party as well.
Right.
Okay. So naturally, it is my party as well, despite me being a federal. So I started being concerned of how things were happening, and but I thought he would pull it off. But I think the people of Alberta were fed up with the loss of the culture of entitlement, as it is called. They felt that the PC party was culture of entitlement. I think nobody voted NDP for their policy. Nobody, except the hardcore left-leaning support base they have, which is a very few one. People voted for NDP to punish the Conservatives. Okay. They could not give to Wild Rose, because Wild Rose had just 10 MPs had crossed, 10 MLAs had crossed the floor. It was in a massive disarray,
right.
And so they were not ready. My good friend Brian Jean, who was again like Jim Prentice, he was my colleague, right. A great with whom I had a good relations when he was in Ottawa.
That's what I was going to ask. Was as you said, combining two parties into one, was the Wild Rose, was there a reason for the lose?
Well, let me give you my experience.
Yeah.
Combining of two parties into one party would have been quite good. What was wrong in this case here? When we did it under Preston Manning, when Canadian Alliance joined the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, okay, we first went to our membership, okay, and asked our membership, "Are you think we should do it?" And people like me, who were in a position of power, explained to them why it would be good for us. Right? Subsequently, the grassroots gave us the permission to join forces.
Right.
Okay. The problem here was they never went back to the grassroots to explain. They just crossed the floor, okay, leaving the grassroots people who elected them out in the cold. That is where the problem was. Right. That is why people were very upset. And then subsequently, a very quick election after that, when the wound was fresh, and so that that was back is the history we can all analyze and see what is happening.
Right. Yeah. Talking about the same scenario about elections, how do you see the federal level politics as elections are coming?
There is no question to the fact that the win of the NDP in Alberta has given a major boost to the NDP, okay, and brought thinking changing, because there was no hope of NDP ever coming into a province like Alberta, which is a hardcore conservative one, but they're still there for a variety of reasons as we talk. So this impact is that the NDP is now seen as a more credible organizer, not a far left, high taxes, things which they still their policy, unionized. Now they see them, oh, well, you know what, maybe let's look at what they want to offer. Okay?
Right.
This may of course impact us. But we are a national party, a national scene, which is both in Quebec, in Ontario, Maritime, British Columbia, the prairies. So all of these have very different dynamics when we run into elections. So we are looking at this. The most important thing is that we have already set a course ourselves for the elections by the balanced budget that we just introduced, and other policies are being introduced, and those policies will be the cornerstone of our election campaign.
I see. Okay. Recently there are not so good news coming out from the federal PC party as the Senate scandals coming out, and they're talking about and it's in court and all that. How do you think that that'll impact?
Well, let me just say to you, all of those issues that are up there were done by the individuals appointed. They should be taken responsibility. They're nothing to do with the PC party. The moment we came to know, the Prime Minister came to know any of these things, he would immediately take the first action of removing them from the caucus, that they were no longer part of the Conservative caucus. And then we would let the court system take its place and the criminals thing, because these guys have broken the rule. It has nothing to do with the Conservative Party. It is them. They individually, they were trusted with the position. Okay, when we were appointed, they broke the trust. So that we kicked them out. And I think our strong stance that we have taken, right? You were given a position of trust. You broke that trust yourself. Okay? You have no room in this party.
Right.
And that is, if you will look at it, we have more people that have been removed from our party who broke the trust. And there's a clear, straightforward that this party stands for accountability, of a very strong leadership. And if you break your trust, you have no room. And if you will see, all of them have been suspended. And as a matter of fact, all of them have been given back to the RCMP with the complete assurance from the Prime Minister that we will cooperate with the RCMP investigation. In the case of Mike Duffy, he was a very respectable broadcaster, journalist. But what he did subsequently and how he floated the rules and how he broke the rules was, he did it. We didn't know. We don't know. The Senate runs its own rules. House of Commons runs its own rules. You're going to follow the rules. The Prime Minister has been very clear. You break the rules, you're out. And the rules are there, and it is enforced by the House, Board of Internal Economy in the House and Board of Internal Economy in the Senate. They are responsible for it. So the senators are recognizing the fact that if they don't clean their house, Canadians are angry because they are facing scandal. They're facing scandal. They have lost a huge amount of trust with the Canadians. All right. We say you have no room with us. Now we have tried to go to change the Senate. We all know that Senate needs reform. But the Supreme Court of Canada has not accepted our proposal. So we can't do it without the provinces and many unanimity between the provinces, 60% of that, and that has not happened. Because many provinces say no.
Right.
Some like Saskatchewan say get rid of them.
As you have represented Canada as a state head of Canada overseas, and if you are given a chance to be a leader of the party, what changes would you bring to the party and to the country?
Very good. It's a good point. I don't have to be a leader of the party to bring those changes. As a member of the caucus, we are allowed in the caucus to very strongly put our views. And I can tell you, as Prime Minister Harper has said in many ways, Deepak will tell us exactly what he feels. So I have been, during all these years, been a very vocal member in the caucus. If I don't agree with something, I'll let my leader know. I will let them know. So whatever I want to do, I am very free to talk my way into the caucus. Recently the bills stripping of citizenship is something that I don't agree with. Then I let my party know. I told them that it is difficult for me, and they were aware of my objections to it. I was very much opposed to the reform bill of Michael Chong on the basis, and I stood up in the House and I made my speech why I was opposed to it, because they took away the rights of the grassroots to who the leader is going to be. He was trying to give the power to the MPs. I said no, the power lies with the grassroots. They have the power, so they are the ones in the drive. So where I have opposed, I do want to tell you that I have opposed government bills, I have opposed other positions, and so made my views very clear, quite clear, that this is what I stand for and what I hear, and I say it.
What do you think Canada is more secure now or more vulnerable?
Well, you see, as you know, right now, the ISIL war in Iraq, in Syria, and the terrorist rise of terrorism in the last 10-15 years. The first, of course, was the Air India bombing, but that was an isolated case. Was not. The fact of the matter is that the other terrorists have made it very clear that Canada is a target, very clear. Okay? And we have seen that happen. Okay? You've seen the attack on the parliament. I was with the Prime Minister in the caucus room. If I had made a wrong turn, I would have probably been shot dead. So terrorism has come home. Corporal Nityan was shot dead guarding the war memorial. Okay? Another officer was run down in Montreal. We have been made targets of the terrorism. They made it very clear. Therefore, Canadians need to be protected. So Bill C-51, which many people say is taking right. Bill C-51 is very simple. Let me phrase it very clearly. A, okay, if you haven't broken a law and don't intend to break a law, Bill C-51 has nothing to do with you. Okay, unless you want to break the law. Secondly, it gives our powers to ensure that we are they have the tools to protect us. You have seen in USA, an officer shoot, one of the military shoot, what they call internally within the army. So we are vulnerable. There's no question to the fact. Right.
Have we not invited the terrorism to Canada, or we inherited it?
No, terrorism was already coming to Canada. There was nothing wrong. The Air India attack was already happened. September 11th attack where Canadians died had already happened. I've been around the world representing Canada. We know from this thing, we are no longer vulnerable. Okay, we are very vulnerable to this thing. Our way of life is an open way of life.
Right.
Okay, in Canada, and so in an open way of life, we don't have security forces coming at your home at night and doing this thing, or as in other countries. In this, the terrorists take advantage. Okay, with the advent now of the internet, social media, they are able to do that, and we have seen that is happening. All countries are shocked. Parents are shocked. Okay, for example, the so-called drone jihadis who was beheading people on the videos I saw, his parents, when they found out, who were living in UK, were shocked and called him a brutal murderer. Okay. A murderer is a murderer, no matter what you do, or when you kill innocent people.
Right.
So Canada needs to protect itself. There's no question, like anybody else. And in order to protect ourselves, the more we protect ourselves, then we're in a better situation. Are we in a danger of threat or anything? No, we have no wars coming along. We have no this thing. The new threat is of terrorism. We've got to stop them, which is why Canada is taking its part with 50 coalition forces against ISIL, because it has proved to be a very brutal organization that is expanding out the thing. Day before yesterday, the killing in Kuwait, which is right, the killing in Paris, the beheading of that gentleman in Paris, the killing in Tunisia. Okay, in one day. You see, if you think the war in the Middle East is going to build the ISIL war just there, you're wrong, absolutely wrong. Okay? They're expanding.
Afghanistan.
So Parliament. So they're expanding. They are coming. They have a target. Already they have said, go and hit the Kafirs. They said during the month of Ramadan we should hit them. So what are you going to think we're going to do? Just sit back and turn over our thing and say, okay, yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely not. We'll fight back, and that's what we are doing.
Right.
We want to assure all Canadians, that we will make our border safe, and this thing. But we will also at the same time. There are a lot of fundamental rights that have been granted in the Constitution, okay, for individual rights. We will ensure at the same time those rights are protected.
Wherever West has tried to make a change, like in Afghanistan, Iraq, or other countries, and it sort of failed. What's the reasons?
Well, I don't know whether it has failed. Okay, for example, the regime in Iraq of Saddam Hussein was very brutal against the minorities. They were using bombs and killing Kurds and everybody else. The regime of Muammar Gaddafi was very, taken on fundamental rights. The Arab Spring, we didn't start that. It's people's demand for that. What happens then, of course, is that once we intervene, expectations rise. Okay, overnight things would be very good and everything. But you have to understand that historical issues, cultural, regional barriers, religious barriers that have stood will take time to change. So now Canada and everybody looks at the military, but nobody looks at the other aspect of that Canada is very strong at. Promotion of democracy, promotion of institutions of democratic reform, which we are doing in Tunisia, which we are now doing in Libya, but they are slow to build. They won't be built. Because what has happened is the terrorists have come into this space. while we are building this institution. We spend millions of dollars, more than we do in the military, to build democratic institutions so they are able to do it. And then we have to address the humanitarian assistance. Canada remains one of the leading countries in the world that sends food aid to all these refugee camps of people displaced through this war. Okay, so we are there very much so, and we have multi-pronged strategy to ensure that we live in a safe country.
Right. Now coming back to the Canada again, as the PC government is bringing changes to the income split taxation system, majority of other people, they are saying that change is for the higher bracket people, not for the ordinary general public.
Well, these are the opposition making claims against this, but the fact of the matter is, the society is vast. You target people to assist them, okay? So now it's income splitting, pension income splitting for seniors, okay? Income tax, TSFA, or those who can save. So we are giving this thing. On July 20th, let me put it this thing right now. On July 20th, every family in Canada that has a child under 18 will receive a check on July 20th to support them for the growing of the family. Okay. $600. Everyone will get. This is supporting the families. Okay. So when you support, you don't look at one program. You look at the massive program that are running to support every segment of the seniors, the unemployed, the youth for jobs, the young families so that they can raise their children. All of these programs are there. So the biggest program will come on July 20th. It is not for seniors, income splitting. It is for families. Right. Everybody who has a child under 18 will get the money. You and I missed it, but that's good. Our children will benefit out of it.
Right. Good. What is your most pleasant or proud achievement in over 18 years?
The greatest, which is mind-boggling and which is, stops you in your track and things, and nothing will take that ever away, is the night you win the election.
Right.
Because then you realize that people have made you elected.
Right.
Okay. People have made their choice because we are a free democratic country. We went out to campaign.
Right.
I went out there, I talked to the people, put forward the views of the party and everything. And in return, right, they put a confidence in you.
Right.
Right. So now they put a confidence in you. And that is the most humbling experience.
Right.
Right. Now, like I said when I first ran, the burden is on you to uphold the trust they put in you.
Right.
Nothing can take that away.
That's true.
Nothing can take that away. Yeah.
Good. What are your future plans?
Well, I'm running in the next election
Okay.
from the new riding called Forest Lawn, which takes half of my old riding. Again, seeking the support of the community.
Right.
My campaign has started right now.
Okay.
And then once more, I will do what I've been doing, take my message out to the community and seek their support for the next 42nd Parliament. Right. And the people will decide.
Right. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Deepak, taking your time and coming to our studio and talk to us. I'm sure the viewers who are watching, they're very happy, and I'm sure they'll have some questions for you. They can call you at your contiguous office as the numbers on screen.
Anytime they can call me, they can talk to me, they can come to my house, they can stop me anywhere. I'm always available. Again, once more, thank you very much, Jagtar, for such a, you've been a great friend and a great supporter, and you always give me the opportunity to express my views on your show. So I want to say thank you very, very much for doing such a wonderful job.
No problem. Thank you. You're welcome, Deepak.